Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the MSP Initiative, MSP Talk. Today is May 15th. Oh man, we are like right on the edge of summertime, at least on this side of the world. So buckle up, guys. It's about, like the year is absolutely going by at warp speed. Check out mspinitiative.com. That's where we list all the good stuff that we do here, including some upcoming events. We'll be in Dublin with our friends from Datto/Kaseya for DattoCon Dublin. We'll also be in Tampa with the good folks at Roost for the Flow conference. So if you're going to be at either one of those, or you just happen to be in the area and you're an MSP, please join us. Community events for all, a little beverage, and good networking. All that being said, there's mspinitiative.com. This is going to be an interesting episode. For the very first time, we bring somebody from the great state of Michigan, Mr. Kevin Damghani. How you doing today, Kevin?
Good. Pleasure to be here. George, you're looking great. Every time I see you, I think you can't disappear more. And somehow you've managed to shave another 10 pounds off.
Yeah, I definitely. What Jen says, I'm going into my hot girl summer 2.0.
See, you gotta get that hairline back, and we got to get you on a trip to Turkey.
Ah, I hear you've taken a trip over there already.
I might have gone with my buddy Antoine, another MSP owner in the space. It is coming back very nicely, so highly recommend it. Let's go. I'll get the
Rock,
touch up. You get the round one.
rock and roll, rock and roll. So, Kevin, this is your first time on the show. I've known you for a long time, but I always like to set the table, right, and give people a chance to talk about your journey, right? Your background, so that people understand, hey, do you actually know anything worthwhile before we get into other topics? So, you know it well. Let's tell the people about your story.
Yeah, appreciate that. So, story goes back to 2008. Started a break fix company with my dad. Sold that several years later. But really, IT Partners started in 2017, which was a spin out of that break fix company. We were doing managed services under that break fix company early on. We sucked at it, quite frankly. We sucked at it. Um, we had a very reactive set of customers. They weren't proactive. Uh, Long story short, sold that company. We were an Apple authorized service provider, which brought a lot of business, a lot of visibility there. That was a great exit to that chapter, and simultaneously started IT Partners. Now, IT Partners, in the 6 years that we've been in business, we've gone from $0 to this year, will be right around the 15 million mark in revenue. So it's been yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. It's been some pretty aggressive growth. It's been fun. Made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot. That's the key. And we're having a lot of fun doing it. That's what brings me a lot of joy. The
That's
culture
awesome.
that we built.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, we're gonna go all around the block here, so buckle up. By the way, guys, if you've been following this podcast, I never, almost never. I mean, this was one time, but usually do not talk, ahead of time about what we're going to talk about on the show. I'm just going to throw curveballs at Kevin here and see
Love
where
it.
we land.
Love it.
So here we go. Buckle up. So big time Datto guy from memory,
Yep.
which turned into very invested Kaseya guy. When
Yep.
I say Kaseya guy, meaning MSP, buying a lot of products and services from this vendor, right?
Sure.
Saw you along the way, in a lot of conversations with Fred in one format or another, right? Who's no longer, running the ship at the moment, right? So, there's a lot of people who have a lot of opinions on the bigs and whether things are going well or things aren't going well. I, around this time, always bring up in these podcasts the pricing wars, right? Like the bundling wars, the pricing wars. Is that good? Is that bad? Like, how does that ultimately help everyone or not? So you have a lot of experience in this whole conversation. I want to hear what your thoughts are.
Well, first off, Kaseya, that can be the a four-letter K word, if you catch my drift, to a lot of people, me included, to be honest with you, in the past. And so we were a big time Datto partner. We were on the partner advisory board. Um, Gosh, I remember one of my career highlights. I got to speak to all the investors on the New York Stock Exchange floor as they were IPO, and definitely some career highlights on that journey. Datto really helped us operationally mature as an organization. So when we were in the process of getting rid of all of our Kaseya products, hated Kaseya, getting rid of all of them. By the time, what was that? Was that in 21 or 22 that acquisition happened?
I think it was
22?
in I think it was in 22.
22. Okay. So, we had just minimal products with them, trickling a couple licenses, and we were on our way out, trying to just move out of there. That acquisition happened, and it was like, oh shit, damn, what is going on here? And
Mm,
so uh, then there's a lot of turbulence. If a lot of MSPs that are listening, I'm sure remember that turbulence with culture wars, Datto's culture versus Kaseya's culture, very different. Um, you know, love or hate either side. They were different to say the least. And so we looked at I looked at this and thought, man, I can either be really bitter about this, which I started to be a little bitter about it, or we can embrace it. And that's when I sent an email. It was about 3 sentences long, an email to Fred. Hey, look, I'm going to be in Miami. Um, can I trouble you for 5 minutes of your time? And he booked us for a 15-minute slot. I'm like, okay, that's great. CEO of Kaseya, 15 minutes. All right. I ultimately I wanted to help. I wasn't looking to bitch and complain and just lob missiles, but I wanted to just have a constructive feedback. Hey, here's our issues. How can we make this work? Well, that 15 minutes turned into a 2-hour meeting,
mm.
and we ended up becoming on the CEO council and got a lot of access to Kaseya from there. And so we've doubled down. Now, what we've seen since the acquisition is, yeah, Kaseya has made mistakes, but they've owned those mistakes too. Um, We've seen in the last year and a half the partner first pledge that Kaseya has done, which talks about, like, if you lose a big customer, they're gonna pause building. They're not gonna hold you accountable to this 3-year agreement. They're gonna allow flex spend. So if you need to drop a product and great, move it over to spend somewhere else. There's a lot of flexibility, a lot of things that have happened in these years because they've listened to that feedback. Now, I will say, the Reddit warriors, there's a lot of sentiment on there, and what I would say to that, George, is, I would even tell Fred. Fred initially would say there's like 100 people, 150 people out of the 40,000 US based. I mean, there's 100,000 MSPs across the globe, roughly. 100 people that are making the most noise. I said, well, I'm not making any noise on Reddit, but I agree with what they're saying. So just because I'm not commenting doesn't mean that I don't agree. So he took a lot of that feedback to heart, and really adjusted the company. Now, I'm not trying to make this all about Kaseya, but you kind of brought that up. That's been our experience. Sure, there's been issues, but they've been quick to fix those issues and work with us on that stuff too.
Okay, so let me flip over to the second part of that. I know
Yeah,
it's a big topic, but like, all right, so the
the
bundle
pricing
wars,
war.
right? Like,
Yeah,
and this isn't just a Kaseya comment. This is everybody, right?
this is
Like,
everything. Yeah,
money men come in. I don't care what name they are. There's a lot of them. I could rattle
yep,
them off, but I don't think it helps anything in this conversation. So we just call it the PE, VC, banker,
absolutely.
whatever. They come in, they make put a lot of investment dollars in, but then there's this. Does that actually then stifle innovation? Does stuff just freeze? Like, what does that mean to the guy consuming things or the girl consuming things from an MSP standpoint? What's your opinion there?
Well, it definitely can. I mean, I've seen a lot of stifled innovation in certain organizations. I've seen some gasoline to the fire in other organizations. So I think there's this equilibrium when you're really small and you get a big investment. All of a sudden, innovation starts to go up, and then you reach a certain point, and then bureaucracy happens, and innovation stalls. And I think some organizations break through that well, and some don't. Now, bundling is really the name of the game. You've got more pricing power or more spending power to invest with one vendor. They're going to be able to give you better discounts. Your COGS are going to go down as an MSP. And so that is really big. I was talking with the CEO of a publicly traded MSP vendor the other day, and they're trying to talk to us creatively about moving away from one of our large vendors. I'm trying to remain a little bit ambiguous here intentionally, but I said, well, how can you compete with the bundles that we're getting from this other vendor? And they said, well, we can't, but I can't from the public facing side. However, if because of the volume that you're doing, we can compete with you individually. So it's not this standardized message. It's like, okay, here's one message that's going out that says here's our price, here's why we're the best. But when it comes down to the brass tacks, you've got to balance security, you've got to balance functionality, got to balance integrations with the price. And so each MSP has a different take, a different opinion on that. I don't think any of them are wrong, really. Now, when you reach a certain size, COGS really, really matter. I mean, COGS matter at any size, but your cost of goods sold really matters when you start to like shaving $1 off a month times however many thousand seats you have. That adds up.
Yeah. All of a sudden, $1 off the price turns into $60,000 in annualized costs, right?
Right. And now, if you're able to save that and not spend it, depending on what your EBITDA multiple is, your enterprise valuation can increase by hundreds of thousands of dollars by just shaving $1 off a month.
Okay. All right. So you made so you started off as break fix, then came out this, more focused managed services organization out of your break fix, business with your father. By the way, I resonate with that. I got you. And then at some point that turned into outside investment dollars, which I don't want to go too far into your story because you're going to tell it, which then massive expansion. So let me understand, when did you decide that it was time to go from you're running the boat, nobody else is skin in the game, it's 100% you, to I'm working with the money man?
Well, we're not private equity backed, which
Okay.
is really unique. So we're running a private equity playbook without private equity. We're
Oh,
doing a lot of M&A. So we just secured a $30 million backing. So money men, to your point, $30 million backing, which has been huge. We had to give up 4%. Now that will scale to 7% based on some metrics. So call it 7%. Worst case scenario. Uh, by anybody's books, that's I don't think that's majority controlled, 7%. So we're definitely not private equity backed. I can confidently say that to you. Now that backing allows us to grow. It allows us to drive a lot of value to MSPs that we merge with and roll equity forward with together. Because when we collectively exit as a group of MSPs, um, that money stays with us. Well, 93% of it stays with us versus, private equity. Great. Private equity is fantastic, by the way, and I can speak to that point in a second, but um, for our industry, but that allows the money to stay with us as the collective owners versus in a traditional sense, 70, 80, 90% goes to private equity, and then the rest goes to the collective owners that have rolled forward. So there's some really big advantages here. Now,
okay.
speaking of private equity, George,
Hmm.
um, I mean, you've had a lot of experience in this industry too. Um, and
Good and bad, but yes, I
yep,
have.
absolutely. Private equity has brought so much operational maturity to our industry. Now, I would argue and you've been around this industry a long time. I saw you in the early days of DataCon. I remember 2016 was actually the first time I met you, DataCon Nashville.
Hmm.
I remember it. Who's this guy with a backpack walking around that has the similar skin tone as me? Um, anyway, I digress. But private equity, I would argue, George, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you ask the 9 out of 10 MSP owners what is EBITDA 5 years ago, they give you a blank stare.
Yeah,
Now you ask 9 out of 10 today, and they would tell you. I mean, it's a fancy word for profit in our industry.
fair.
Um,
It's fair. I mean, there's definitely been a lot more awareness on it. No question. I
absolutely.
mean, like, when people then we started hearing like a lot of MSPs don't make money, a lot of MSPs maybe break even, and you're like, wait a minute, are you in business? Like, what are we doing? Um,
Absolutely.
I know I'm kind of jumping on your conversation here, train of thought for a second, but like what you're talking about as that, the playbook that comes downstream with the money attached to it, the strings, if you would, like a lot of that came from other, like, private equity and VC, and just I call it the money men. They went in a lot of other areas before they ended up here, right? And so they
Hmm.
learned a lot of things. They have a maturity model, they have a way things work, they have a business methodology regardless of the business that they're working with, right? So I think a lot of that came downstream with the dollars, right? That said, this is how we want you to run your business, this is what we see as our recipe, we're rinse and repeat, follow the yellow brick road, don't deter, right? And like,
Sure.
I can't argue to a large degree, these people tried it, right? And saw it, and that's how they got to what they know as their process. Where I
Hmm.
think a lot of the people in our industry, Kevin, and I'm no different, we do a little seat of your pants, right? Like, well, we'll figure it out as we go along. And
We're
let's be honest.
entrepreneurs.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. At the end of the year, that may be not a profitable way to come to the bank account balance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so much in it. Like private equity has brought a lot of operational maturity, so people are starting to think about valuations. Okay, I got to do finance, but really, I would argue most MSP owners are accidental business owners, including
Yeah.
myself. I loved IT. I'm an engineer by trade. It's what I love. I love helping people. So I got big enough, and all of a sudden I need a hired employee, and then it's oh shit, I got to deal with HR, payroll, billing. Uh, okay, you want time off? Like now we became a business owner because we had to, but really we just liked helping people for the most part.
I'm with you. I'm thinking what you're saying. I agree. I mean, here's the difference, though. You and your dad in a break fix thing that kind of started into a more mature MSP thing to running a technology services business in 27 states with $15 million in revenue. I mean, we might as well be talking about George's.
George, 39 states. Sorry,
Oh, I'm sorry.
humble
Okay.
brag, humble
By the
brag.
way, we didn't talk before this, just to point out, like, right? I just went off the top line. 39
Uh,
states. Okay, but like, this is the difference between George's hot dog cart on the corner and an actual company. I mean, we're not talking about the same thing anymore. I can't
sure.
imagine that the processes that run that size, footprint today
Oh, it's very
was
different.
even in the thought pattern of where you were before.
It's very different. And I mean, George, I'm curious too, because you're running an MSP. You're running also a very successful vendor, BVoIP, that's growing and doing a whole bunch of stuff. And you're running this entire vendor community MSP initiative. I'm sorry, vendor community, but really to drive value to the MSPs and vendors alike, MSP initiative. So you you've scaled a thing or two
I,
for sure.
I got it. Well, listen, we could argue about the efficacy, but bottom line is, I mean, I've learned a lot, just like everybody else, right? Like, I didn't go get an MBA before I started my first company. And I would say, to your point, accidental entrepreneur. No, I was, you know, I knew I was going into business to be in business, right? Like, for sure. Like, did I have the right idea in mind? Maybe not polished and figured out, but at least in my mind, I'm like, no, I'm doing this. We'll just have to learn along the way, the
Yep.
hard way. That being said, like, people is definitely, like, even though we're in the business of technology, right? I'd argue the hardest thing is the people part, at least from my experience, right? And like
100%.
the more people involved, exponentially harder. You know, like I don't like to think. I don't know how many people are in your organization. Can I ask that question? How?
Yeah, yeah, we're close to 40 today.
Okay, all right. 40. I still like what you know. I hear like the demarcation points like below 50, above 50, right? And then like the next one, like 100 and below 100, right? Like
Sure.
it's almost like MSPs, like $1 million in revenue, and then the next one's like 5 million, right? And then like so like there's these kind of glass ceilings, right?
Absolutely.
Um, but I'll tell you what, sub 5 people and 40 people is completely different.
Hmm.
I got to be honest, and one of the big struggles, and I'm take your opinion here, but like I would always bring people into anything I was working on linearly. A lot of that's because I just didn't have a lot of money to hire 3 people to figure out one person out of the 3 was going to work out. Of course, when you do that, it takes a long time to figure out, okay, well, that didn't work, try again, that didn't work, try again, that didn't work, try again. And like you're years later now by the time you feel like you finally got to a thing that fits good, right? That's not great. And I
Yeah,
understand when you're
we might be in a.
larger, when you're larger and you can hire, like 10 people at a time and then figure out the 2 that make it, like that's great, but you can do that in a lot less time than what I just told you.
Yeah, I think we're in our eighth flavor of sales. Reinventing our sales team. Um, as most MSPs struggle there, we're getting it. We've gotten it dialed in. Got it dialed in, but it took a lot of trial and error to get there.
I mean, and listen, if you're able, like, so let me rewind then, because like I'm sure somebody listening to this is thinking the same thing I'm thinking right now. So you have 40 people in your organization, yet you're covering 37 states. How does that compute? Hold on. Let me add some more metrics in there and see if I can even make it more sense.
Yeah,
How many companies are you servicing, and how many endpoints? Because I know that that's a top popular question as well across those companies. Are you managing?
yeah. So we don't. I don't track really endpoints of the manage
Okay.
or a key metric. Um, like we've got 20,000 seats of data or like Data SaaS Protect out there. We probably have 5,000 managed seats. I don't even know the number, but we do so much in the co-managed space where
Mm.
they might not be buying RMM from us,
Okay.
or the full flavor. We kind of look at our business in 2 umbrellas. One is the traditional managed services to small business,
Mhm.
and then we have another umbrella which is co-managed, where we're partnering with existing IT departments, and we do a lot of government work, local government work, and that's what distributes us. So we do a lot of backup disaster recovery in the government space,
Okay. So
which
so
distributes our state footprint.
so out of your 37 states, did I say is it 37? I think I heard 37.
39.
39. There you go. See,
The two the
see?
two I've let slip.
Yeah, 39. Out of the 39 states that from a coverage standpoint, how many unique organizations are buying something from you?
Yeah, we've got about 800
Okay.
organizations.
That is a big, big, big number. How do you handle all of that with 40 people?
I mean, it's really about that reactive versus proactive approach. We were firemen in the break fix days. You know, you're getting that 911 call, and you go put out the fire, go put out the fire, go put out the fire.
I know. I was
Yeah,
there. I
yep,
got you.
yep. It is a lot easier now, in my opinion. The decisions are a lot harder. The decisions carry a lot more cascading effect. um, Arguably, we're moving a lot faster in certain areas, slower in others, but it's easier running an organization this size than it was running an organization of 5 employees.
Hmm.
There was a lot more stress then, a lot more stress. Now, some might differ with that opinion, but that's at least my take on it.
Okay. I mean,
But
but I'm just
because
doing them. I'm
because
just
so
doing the
much is
math.
remote.
800 divided by 40, like customers per employee. I mean, it's
But when you're doing co-managed and you're selling to IT departments, they're doing first and second level support.
that's
They're
true.
only calling us when something is really being needed to fix. So, um, call it a rent check, if you will. Um, there's definitely involvement. Where our team is doing the backup disaster recovery monitoring for all of these governments. So there's
Hmm.
still daily work that's being done, but when you get really efficient and you're able to be proactive at all this stuff, you're trying to get ahead of the issues before they actually happen. So we
Okay,
have
hold
somebody
on.
that is just doing automation and scripting.
I'm with you.
Yep,
Now I'm gonna rewind for and not too
good.
far. So how do you handle doomsday, aka a situation like CrowdStrike?
Well, I guess thankfully we didn't use CrowdStrike. Yeah, I know exactly. I was just talking about that with my VP of sales today. We were talking laughing about CrowdStrike.
I
He
mean,
was
but like
actually
but could you admit, like, had you been in that bubble, like now, how do you handle 800? I mean, some subset of 800 organizations that could have been on that.
I mean, you just got to power through. You just got to do. Just got to
Okay.
do. I mean, all 800. There's probably not. There's no one SKU that is touching all 800. There's
Okay.
probably no one SKU that's touching even 400.
Okay.
So if we had a vendor like CrowdStrike touching all 800, yeah, that'd be
All right.
doomsday for sure.
Let me
There's a lot of doomsday scenarios we could play out, but
fair. Okay,
yeah,
but let's try a different one that probably is a little bit more broad. Ready? Microsoft outage.
sure.
That happens to everybody.
Yep.
So how do
Yep.
you handle that situation?
Well, I mean, in a Microsoft outage, we actually have a third party mail utility that we can send out mass communications to people, and the primary contact text messaging and hopefully their email account if they can at least get into email. But if
Hmm.
it's Azure that's down or something like that, a different Microsoft service. Um, so we have some communication means there. Obviously, they would be coming in via phone call as well. We've had our VoIP system. You're big into VoIP. We've had our VoIP system hiccup for an hour or two, where there's a mass Verizon outage or something, and uh, nobody can call in because that's one of the main trunks coming into the wholesaler, whatever the case is.
Hmm.
Um, there's lots of little unique situations like that. But we try to have that alternate mass communications mean. So we have that one built in 365,
Hmm.
that we issue for VoIP stuff. And then if 365 goes down, we've got one that's actually built in through our VoIP provider to be able to do the mass communications.
It's good. Everybody should learn. This is something that you have to have in place ahead of time because when you're in the middle of it, it's probably not the right time to try and glue it together. I digress.
Yeah,
Let's go over to the other side. So you've gone through the journey. But by the way, $15 million in revenue, my friend. You are in the top, I think, 2.5% of MSPs on the planet at that revenue.
yeah.
That's
Thanks.
hard.
It takes a team for sure.
It's really hard. It's really hard. So if I were to ask the question, do you believe the MSP sandbox, I like to call it, is a sub industry of the larger technology industry or technology services industry, right? Like we largely are defined by small, medium business for the people on the other side of the ocean, small, medium enterprise. Like, what is that definition to you? Is it under 500, under 200, under 100? What's your definition for that?
Yeah, everyone will have a different definition for sure. So I look at it as sub 100 and over 100. Typically, our defining factor is when you need a full-time IT person. That's typically at 70 to 100 users, you know,
Mhm.
arguably. And then that's when we look at that co-managed umbrella where we're starting to partner with the IT admins on staff.
Okay, so
Now, traditional mid-market enterprise is some would say 500, some would say 2,500 and up. To answer your question more direct, we just look at it a little bit different in terms of our vocab.
well, and that's why I asked this question because everybody does believe it differently, and some people think that your 100,000 worldwide number is not right. I've heard crazy numbers. I've heard 400,000. Like, I don't know where everybody gets their bean counting from, but okay. Uh,
Sure.
so let's so you're saying majority of MSPs service 100 and below, fine. 100,000 MSPs worldwide, fine. Do you believe that the industry, by your definition today, is healthy or unhealthy? well, ask if you want me to put a definition to what healthy unhealthy means, let me know. But like from your perspective, is it successful? Is it in a good place? Is it going in a good direction? What do you think?
That's a really good question, George. That's a really good question. There's so much more business opportunity out there today than there was, I'll just say again, 5 years ago. And so with that opportunity, there's so much room for all of these other up and coming MSPs out there that are taking their share of the pie, so to speak. Overall, by and large, I'd say it's a considerable amount more healthy now than it was at any other time in our past. And um, I definitely see that momentum carrying forward. Um, there's more of a reliance on an MSP now than there was in years past.
What? Okay, let me go one tick further. So the vendor that sells to you is now turning into other marketplaces like Azure, like Amazon, like whatever, and then anybody can buy, right? Doesn't that complicate things because now, like we commingle that reality with shadow IT where they just swipe their credit card and anybody in the organization buys whatever they want, and then you get this. It wasn't that long ago. They're like we heard the consumerization of IT, right? They made it so easy a caveman can do it. Like if I take all three of those teams and make a sandwich there, do you still say we're in a healthy place or no?
I would argue, yeah. I mean, cybersecurity is increasingly complex, um, but really, where the industry is moving to is two different things. Compliance is really at the forefront and 5 years out. More and more industries are becoming regulated, and so I believe it's the MSP's job to help their customers be more operationally mature. Um, and so compliance is one, and then AI is the other. And
Mm.
so now you have things like, yeah, exactly, the cloud 10 years ago.
Okay, but all right, you stumbled into a pet peeve topic of mine, so I got to go there because like you pressed the red button for me.
Good.
Like you know, every day. I just saw something in my mailbox 5 minutes before I jumped onto this session. Two things. One, Zoom has a flaw. If you didn't update your Zoom today, please do that because apparently there's a 0 day. So please make sure you're up to date. Kevin, I pressed update before I came on, and Jen
I
behind the scenes.
I pressed update right before I came on too.
Okay, awesome. So that's number one. Number two, not too long ago, I believe, and I can go back and double check. I'm just ballparking somewhere in 2022, 2023. I read about McDonald's doing a 3 state, 90 location pilot with an AI in the ordering menu at the drive-through of these locations, and didn't go well. Today, and why I remember this story, I saw an email like 5 to 10 minutes before I got on here that said Wendy's did something similar and also ripped it out. So like they were using Google's AI for whatever it's worth, and I can go pull up the article, but like that's what they use to try and their pilot. And there's so many AIs, and we'll talk about that in a second. But like I am all for bleeding edge. I have my whole career. I felt like I was in a toy store because we were like testing new things and like it's all fun. That was part of the enjoyment of being in the technology business. But as I grew and we talked about maturing your business and like what does that look like over time, I came to the realization that cool things are awesome, but reproducible or consistently reproducible outcomes is way, way more important than I originally gave it weight, right? Credit. And so this explosion, the wild, wild west period that I believe that we are in now with the word AI, like I feel like it could be used in a very dangerous way, meaning the outcomes are very inconsistent one interaction to the other, or you're displacing your customer interaction with a computer and it ends up going sour, that could have negative results. Now, what do you think about the word AI?
Well, yeah, I one thing that I don't foresee doing, I'm not going to say never, but I don't foresee this at all for us as an organization is to have an IVR AI agent that answers your phone calls and how can I help you and acts like it's a human. I hate those things. I've interacted with them. They suck. Not one like get me to a person. Uh, yeah, I can help you. Just tell me a few words of what you're looking for. No, just get me to a damn person. um, so, I mean, AI for sure for augmenting. I mean, just think about what you're using AI for. Help enhance this policy procedure, rewrite this email. I mean, those are small things. Look at ChatGPT. Like having it create an image a year ago sucked. You're like, just change this one thing, and then the whole image is different. Now you can iterate on that image. And so much progress has happened in the last year in AI, and that's progress is going to be exponential. Um, Now with that comes data compliance. So we talked about compliance a minute ago, data security. For an organization of 5, 10 employees that you're supporting as an MSP, they might not care about that. Like, oh yeah, but like just check the box. I agree. Next, I don't care if ChatGPT uses my data. It's outputting so much more. But like, there's so many organizations that are complete ban on AI. Local government, for the most part, by and large, bans AI use because they can't have the government data. We're actually, side note, I have another company that is a CGIS compliant AI chatbot that's for local government use that is launching in about a week or two. And so that's something for data compliance driven industries. But I digress. Really, as an MSP, we need to help educate. And we need to educate our customers and our partners about AI and use, and what should your employees be uploading or not. How do we help them write the policies and the handbooks around AI? Copilot, getting Copilot set up and getting it set up to the right SharePoint data with the right permissions and making sure that's audited. You can't, going back to your IT in a box comment, you can't just hit the Copilot license, say, here you go, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, and have it be worth anything.
Hmm.
Now, out of the box, ChatGPT is much better than Copilot out of the box, but with the right modifications, Copilot is way better than ChatGPT.
Okay, so let me try and rewind just to make sure I'm catching what you're putting down.
Yeah,
As a back end enhancer, right? Back office, like employee facing tool, AI can be very helpful, very useful. It's every 6 months feels like we're in a new world with it. Cool.
yeah.
But not ready for the customer engagement, employee, or human being replacement component.
Yeah, I can't see that happening. I mean, there's some pretty cool organizations in our industry. I mean, um, I've got a call with Lee from Zofik actually right after this, and Thread. Mark is doing some pretty cool things with Thread that is really enhancing with the use of AI, enhancing our technicians' abilities. Now, just because I sign up for one of those doesn't all of a sudden mean that I need to fire one of my engineers. But what it does allow me to do, going back to how do you support 800 customers across 40 people, it's those kind of efficiency hacks or tricks that we can use to be able to do more.
Okay, that's fair. I just trying to find where the middle is on this, right? Because
Hmm.
like
Sure.
I got people saying, "Oh, over here," and it's like, "Hey guys, like to your point, I don't care
To me,
whatever
it's incremental.
I don't care whatever industry it is. If the customer service expectation is here and the actual experience is this, you lose every time. I mean, like, I know you'll never fly Frontier Airlines, or neither are other people that we know very well and who fly all the time. But the second your vendor or your company or your supplier, or whatever name you want to give them, deletes their phone number and you cannot talk to a human being, I'm out. Sorry. Like when I need something and I need to talk to someone, if I can't reach them, I'm gonna go somewhere else.
Sure. Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
Frontier Airlines did that 2 years ago, and I was like, this is not a good idea. Sorry,
No,
like
it's awful.
that. I don't think an MSP survives if they delete their phone number.
In a boardroom, it sounds good. We could save all this money, but
Yeah.
in reality,
Right before then, Kevin, I don't know if you knew this, T-Mobile were firing customers that were calling in the customer service too much. All right, they were like, "Hey, if we can't outsource the call center, that customer service, how about we just take the 80/20 rule and cut the 20?"
interesting.
I was like, okay, that's interesting. So like they figured out who was the abusers of calling in all the time, and they were like, go somewhere else. We'll let you out of your contract. I
Huh.
mean, how many MSPs fire their customers that aren't profitable? Do you do that?
Some do. Do we? Uh, we we only sign agreements with profitable ones.
Okay.
We have fired in the past, but are we reviewing and firing frequently? No, we're not. Um, if somebody's we've had customers that have been very abusive to our team, yeah, we fire those. But all of our contracts are profitable, thankfully.
So you have a magic formula somewhere that tells you what's good, what's bad.
Yeah, I mean it's the P&L of that individual contract.
Well, I got that, but like you don't know that until you're in the contract, right? Like how do you figure out that it's going to be a good, profitable contract before you
Oh,
sign
I
the
see what you're
contract?
saying. Sure, sure. I mean, uh, we thankfully don't have any abusers.
Okay. I would say that that is a struggle for a lot of companies out there because as things go, you take any business in the beginning, right? You're just trying to find any revenue at all. You may take up, accounts that aren't good for you in the long run, but they're
Absolutely.
paying you. And then over time, you realize what's actually profitable to you and what's not. And there's a lot of tools out there that actually help in the MSP land specific to this, but I digress. Maybe you're just really good at Excel formulas. All that being said, fast forward, then you realize, hey, I haven't raised my rates in a while. I took a lot of bad
Yeah,
accounts in the beginning. Like some of my accounts are pretty profitable, but a lot of them aren't. Like now I got to clean this up because I got this like very, very meshed, not good in between. Like, and then everybody always asks the question. I'm sure you've heard this question 1,000 times. Like, if you could restart, what would you do best? And usually somebody in that answer is, I would only take profitable, accounts. And then we get to the question I just asked. Well, how do you know it's profitable before you sign it?
sure.
What's
I
the
mean, if you're
magic answer?
it, look, if you're outlining a managed service contract and here's the price, and somebody's trying to negotiate that price and beat you up and gets you lower, 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 lower. Well, yeah, that accountant probably doesn't have a room for error. But if you're doing the work in terms of like the network discoveries, the uncovering, looking at ticket volume from a previous MSP, if you have that, you can get pretty close on a price and see that relationship. Yeah, under the unlimited support moniker, we track it. We track what our top customers are, and top profitable customers and lowest profitability customers. But our lowest profitability customers are still well within our margin. Um, we don't have that problem. So I don't really have a good answer for you there, other than we haven't. The only time we really fired customers is when um, not from a profitability standpoint. We do look at that every 6 months. It's from them being just unreasonable, or maybe they don't take our security advice, and they're a really small customer to begin with, and they're not
Mm.
taking our security advice, and we don't want the liability. But we're still making money on the account. It just might be a small amount.
No, that's fair. That's fair. It sounds like you've been doing it long enough that you've gotten to a point where you've been reproducibly creating profitable relationships, which is good.
Sure.
And that's how
Yeah.
you get the $15 million in revenue, by the way. Um, let's pivot now for the rest of our time too. So, how are you partnering or approaching or working with other MSPs in your 39 states? Yeah, I remember that. Like, so how do you start that conversation, figure out if it's a good fit? Like, it's almost similar to the conversation about what's a profitable MSP customer. What's a profitable MSP to talk about the other side of this, which is acquisition or merge, or like at what point do what's your criteria for what's good, what's bad? Is it revenue? Is it customers? Is it
Yeah.
profitability? Like, I don't know, man. Everybody has a different answer here.
There's a lot of yes to all of that. The too long don't read version. So what we're doing is something like I mentioned earlier in the call. It's a little unique. We're executing the private equity playbook without private equity to be able to drive some pretty big wealth numbers. Hopefully, knock on wood, to us as collective MSPs. And so, there's a lot of MSPs in that $1 to $5 million range. So that's one of the criteria markers.
That's like
That
85% of the
That's a lot
whole
of them.
thing.
Yeah,
Of all
private
of the
equity.
100,000 you say exist, that's like 85% are in the 1 to 5.
I'd agree. I'd agree with that statistic. Absolutely. So, yeah, there's a lot of MSPs out there in that, and so a lot of them are owner led sales. They're engineer based business owners who don't like the finance and accounting and HR and all that stuff, and would be happier doing something else in the organization. But really, when we're looking at this, we can buy an MSP if somebody's looking to retire. But our primary focus is merging. And
Okay.
think about this, George. Like, let's just for argument's sake, you still have your MSP, right?
Almost at the end of the road on that one, but yes.
Okay, okay. So let's just for argument's sake say that your MSP is has $100,000 in profit or EBITDA.
Okay.
And for argument's sake, say mine has $100,000 in profit or EBITDA.
Okay.
Okay, just for argument's sake. Now, at $100,000 profit, it might be a 3-4 times multiple argument. There's a lot of ways to go at that. Let's just say, for argument's sake, it's a 4 times multiple. Your company's worth $400,000. My company's worth $400,000.
Yep.
But together at $200,000 in EBITDA, we might be a 5 times multiple. So instead of us being worth $800,000 together, now we're worth $1 million together, 1.1, $1.2 million
Who
together.
who says that?
Who says what?
How do you get to that extra, juice on the top? Like, who says that it's worth more?
Well, yeah. So based on where your EBITDA is, so if your EBITDA is $100,000, you're trading at around 2, 3, 4 times a multiple, depending on a lot of factors. And as you go up in your profit, that multiple will go all the way up to the high water mark, which is about 18x right now. 18 was about a year ago, a year and a
Okay,
half
so
ago.
there's a chart somewhere that says based on your profitability, this is
Yes.
what the market rate is, value of that is.
Yeah, and you're looking at other transaction data that is transacted in that price point and things like that. Absolutely. So as you're getting more profitable, your multiple goes up in terms of what your company's worth. And so if we take our EBITDAs, your MSPs and mine, and we combine them together, we are now worth more together than we ever were separated.
Fair?
So now let's exasperate that a little bit. Let's say we buy your MSP at that $400,000 number,
Okay.
and we are trading at a 10x multiple right now.
Mhm.
IT Partners is. So if we're trading at a 10x multiple right now, now you roll equity forward. Now every MSP that we bring on underneath, you're getting the benefit of that higher multiple as soon as the paper the ink is dry. So we as collective owners can increase our valuation and our wealth so much more together than we ever could doing it separate. Right now, we're looking at a 5-year strategy. Now, asterisk, what's the economy like? And what does the commercial say? Past results not indicative of future performance or whatever. So asterisk, but we're looking at doing a 15 times increase in today's valuation before we look to make an exit in 5 years. And so if you as an MSP triple your enterprise valuation in the next 5 years, that's really good. But if you were to come on board now and ride this wave with us together, and in 5 years and let's just say conservatively, it's a 10x increase on today's valuation. Well, there's so much more of a ride by partnering sooner than later, and there's a lot more a lot more money to be had, honestly.
Okay. So I'm following what you're saying for everybody else. And that's why I asked the question earlier, who says that it's worth more, right? The market dictates this multiplier, right? Of value of what your value is or what it isn't, right? And so if you're looking at the market available, math, and you're like, hey, what do I need to do to get to this line so that I'm worth this much more? It's faster to merge revenue than to granularly add revenue.
100%.
Got it.
100%.
Got it. So,
100%.
and then your point is, hey, if you buy low and you sell high, then you made out more often. So your comment of if you get in earlier in the process, that per chunk of ownership in the new organization is worth more at the end.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Absolutely.
Got it. So
You want to
like
go on a road tour for us? I think you could explain
listen,
this really well.
Kevin, I had to like make it make sense to like that person who has no clue, right, what this math means. Because to be honest with you, like, we're both sports guy, right? Like, hey, if let me try the draft way. It's like, well, if I pick up somebody in the sixth round and they end up being a Pro Bowler, then I made out like my that never happened. Like that very rarely happens, right? Like, let me give you a name, Jason Kelsey, right? The other
Oh
Kelsey,
yeah,
one
sure.
that's not dating Taylor Swift, okay? He got picked up in the sixth round. He became like an all-time center. Like almost never happens that way, right? And like, again, going back to percentages, right? Like below fourth round picks in the NFL, like it's not even a 50-50. Do they work out? Do they not work out? The percentages are way lower, right? And that's why first round draft picks hold such a high value. So for your sports fans out, and I'm on the sports track right now, not just because I'm wearing the Eagles shirt, but because the NFL schedule just came out yesterday, right?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Okay. So the
I
Lions
was I was
come
looking at
to
tickets.
Philadelphia, right?
I saw that. I
Okay.
saw that.
You coming?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's
Come
do
on
it.
down. Let me give you the Philly experience and not the one where you get beat up on the corner and ask for your wallet. We'll make sure it's a good one.
Well, I'm going to be wearing the Lions gear next to you wearing the Eagles gear. So
Well,
just
well,
a
well
fair warning.
but for that's fine, and you can absolutely do that. But I warn you and everyone else that gives you no extra protection, none. Okay, so I just warn you now. That being said, yeah, come on down. All of that being said, on the math standpoint, so you said, so you threw out, it's like, hey, we think we're at a 10x multiple of our revenue at 15 million. What's the next marker then, right? So if at 15 million or at 10x, and you said it goes up to 18x, is what I think you said earlier. How do you get from 10 to 12 or 15?
Well, you know what? I wasn't planning to do this, but there's actually there's so many factors that play into it. Let me show you. Let me show you something real quick.
All right, I'm
Can
gonna let
can I can I do a little share screen here?
you can let me go ahead. You should be good.
All right. Now this. Oh, there we go.
Uh, should be good. Did it say you're good?
There we go. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Give
Let
it a
me.
second.
Oh, you know what? From that update, it's not gonna let me do it. But
Okay.
well, it's based on a lot of different factors. And so,
Ah,
did it
there
work?
we go.
Did it
It's
work?
coming. I see it.
You
Okay.
see it. Okay. So there's a lot of different factors here. So your EBITDA is your profit. And this isn't. There's a couple sources that we're using for this right here. These numbers aren't exactly updated for the first half of 2025. So take this with a grain of salt. But what this is really looking at, George, is based on a lot of different factors. What is the characteristic? What does an MSP look like as they move up? I would argue the operational maturity model. So these are some big factors that valuation is dependent on here on the left side. And then as you're getting more and more profit or EBITDA, what does that company typically look like? Okay, yeah, they've got a really good, solid management team when they're over here. I joke and say, what is that when it's down to 1 to 3? It's like the owner's calling all the shots. There is no management team, or they got their sales manager, but the owner's calling all the shots. Let's be real. And so you can kind of see what that does.
Okay. I've never seen a chart presented in this way before, so this is really good right here. Um,
Yeah. So I mean, this is what some of the things that we're talking about when I'm talking with
Do you
other
mind if I ask
MSP
a
owners.
question? What is
Yeah, go ahead.
customer concentration? Is it vertical or is it
Vertical. Yep.
geography?
Yep. So customer concentration, it might be like what one customer is 30% of the revenue. They've got one
Okay.
big customer. Um,
Okay.
and so you don't want necessarily like or if it's vertical, if it's like travel and tourism, I mean, look what happened with COVID and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like if that one vertical tanks, then you're kind of hosed. So having more diversification is really what that customer concentration
I would
is.
almost put another word next to that. It's like volatility level, right? Or
Oh
something.
yeah, I like that. That's good.
So I'll add that to your chart. And then internal systems KPIs. Okay. So like I'm sure the KPIs are defined somewhere, but like internal systems, I mean that could be 80 different things. So
It could
like
be, yeah, it could be your
what's good,
PSA,
what's
it
bad?
could be your, yeah, but like your PSA, I mean, it could be, uh, are you, like, gosh, I talked to an MSP the other day that's doing all of their recurring contracts out of QuickBooks Online. Um, that's not a great recurring contract system to to be
Okay.
clear, but when you're a smaller MSP, you're just trying to get by. You're just trying to get by.
No,
You got
I
to be the
get
expert
that.
in all things. And I get that. I was there for a lot of years.
Yeah, no, I get that for sure. And so at the end of the day, and I love that chart, by the way, that actually puts some definition to things. Um, what is that like? So what is, you said it could be all the way up to 18x. That's what the market says right now, right? On May 15th, 2025.
Well,
So,
yeah, 18x was the high water mark at really I think it was the end of 23
okay.
um, was that high water mark. But we're starting to see the valuation start to creep back up.
I,
But
I,
those are for much larger MSPs.
I got it. So, but to that point, the market does change the boundaries of your percentages here, right? Because like if, the interest rates come
100%.
down and the market starts doing better, and like now these percentages, the widen a bit, right?
Well, and that's when I said asterisk, asterisk, where's the economy when we're looking to exit in 5 years?
Right.
Because maybe that's not the right time to exit. Maybe we got to hold it. Maybe we need to do it in 4 years. So, yeah, there's a lot of different play, but I think that's when that 5 year mark is when we'll be ready to sell to private equity at a meaningful valuation. I mean, I'm talking we're looking at north of $200 million is really what we're looking to do.
Wow. That's a big number.
Enterprise valuation, not revenue, enterprise valuation.
I like that. Kevin, how do people find you? And like, let's say they want to pick your brain on, by the way, you got a lot of history here and we went through a ton of topics. Like I could
Yeah,
probably do another hour
great
with you without
topics.
breaking a sweat and probably throw some more Lions Eagles banter in there. But um if they want to get, just either just talk shop or maybe they want to understand that chart a bit more and
Yeah,
see how does that apply
happy to
to
go
their
through
business.
that.
Yeah.
And we can go through official valuation processes. And I love talking, even if there's not an opportunity between us. I think the MSP community is so strong that iron sharpens iron. I learned a lot of what I know by going to the different events, meeting people like you, George, and talking shop. Um, and so because there's so many of us out there. It's not like competition, but shoot me an email, Kevin@itpartners.com. Kevin@itpartners.com is a great way to get a hold of me. Let's jump on a Zoom or Teams call and we can chat and see if there's a good fit. But really, we're looking to build something really big together as collective MSPs, and with doing it right and with a clear vision and a great culture. I think we can have a lot of fun doing it and bring value back to all of us involved.
So if you're, definitely reach out to Kevin, or if you're, you don't see him at an event, you could just plan to come to Philadelphia when the Lions play the Eagles, and then
Let's do it.
we'll be in the parking lot. Now, I don't know if Kevin gets, beat up by another Philly fan in the parking lot or not, but like we'll find out together.
That's great.
All
Hey,
good.
I don't tell me with a good time. I'll take you up on that offer.
Hey, that's a legitimate offer. You let me know.
Sounds great, George. It's been a pleasure.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching this. The session was absolutely recorded. You'll find it at mspinitiative.com under sessions shortly. Follow us here, right? Like, we're trying to get into real talk. Like, you saw Kevin had to stop and think a few times on this podcast because, like, I threw something at him he was, like, just not thinking about. which is good, which just shows you like this is not
Fantastic.
pre-prepared content. This is good information. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Catch you on the next one. Take it easy, Kevin.
Take care.
Bye.